Hey there friends, welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm of course Paul Glasgow here, the one and only truth pimp, dealing you a vulgar display of logic and reason on a daily basis. Let me ask you a question. Do you agree with me that spending taxpayer money on clown car issues and causes should be a crime? We're dealing with two parties bickering over a government shutdown, and let me ask you this before I go any further. Shutdown? Is this really a shutdown? Do you notice anything not working? The government puts way too much value on themselves. They act like because for some reason they don't get their way and they throw a temper tantrum, that somehow life will not go on. This shutdown hasn't affected my life in any way. And for any leftist out there who might go, oh, but it affects my life, whatever. So what, your gravy train check will be a little late? You're still going to get it. Is it going to be late? Oh, you have some auntie somewhere that works as some low-level security guard at some beach or government park, and she ain't going to get her check for another week? Whoop-de-doo. She's not losing money. She's getting a paid vacation because she's not at work. That's the other thing. People act like something is going on that nobody's getting paid for. No, it's just the opposite. Nothing is going on that somebody is going to get paid for. That's the downside of that. We get hosed. Work's not getting done that we are going to eventually pay for. And you know the other stupid thing is, these politicians, you know they voted themselves that their staffers don't get paid during all this, but they do. Think about that. The most wealthy people in America are the politicians in D.C. They continue to get their checks distributed to them and direct deposited to them. Their staffers, the lower paid people, don't. You tell me where the fairness is in this country. If you really want me to respect the fact that somebody's suffering, politicians should have to forfeit their entire check for good. Never get it back. No repayment of that. For every day that you're out of work, you don't get paid, and you will never get that money. Because there needs to be skin in the game for you. There's no skin in the game for these people. But they push it off on us and act like the world will come to an end. Folks, the inmates are truly running the asylum in D.C. these days. Instead of doing their jobs and funding core government functions, at least as they call them, Democrats are arm wrestling the country over, well, everything except what actually matters to the average American person. I'm going to point out some of these outlandish, stupid things that people are trying to die on a hill for over a shutdown of the government. You want to see this one. The first one is public broadcasting. Did you know that if you don't hand over $500 million to PBS, our culture will collapse? Forget skyrocketing grocery bills or open borders. Now, the folks on the left say that your top priority should be making sure that Big Bird and Elmo keep their funding. Apparently, there's nothing more essential than taxpayer-subsidized reruns and funding people who say they don't need our money. Remember whenever the actual decision had been made yet to pull this funding from PBS, but remember whenever the threat was made out there that we should pull this funding. Remember PBS, NPR, all of them came out and said, we don't use your money anyway. In other words, they were trying to mind F people and do that reverse psychology thing that, only a small portion of our money comes from the federal government, implying that they didn't need our money. Almost as if we would go, okay, well, if it's not making them mad, we don't want to cut it. Well, we didn't fall for it. We told them, cutting it anyway. Now, they say, we got to lay off 15% of our staff. Well, wait a minute, which one is it? Do you not need our money, or do you need it to pay all these bloated people who are making money to distribute and make left-leaning programs to indoctrinate our children at such young ages? I mean, I don't need that. There has never been a second of PBS or any public broadcasting that has been streamed, listened to, or whatever in my home. And there never will be. I have no interest in that kind of garbage in my house. We don't live in a household where we use government subsidized garbage to indoctrinate our children, and I hope you guys don't either. So the threat that if Big Bird doesn't get his nut, that the entire art world collapses over $490 million for PBS, I frankly don't care. Did you know that we were earmarking $437 million not for America, for Europe. Did you know that? This has nothing to do with America in any way. That's right, $437 million for the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Because why build here when you can send cash to the EU banks and bureaucrats? Sorry, American small business, this Congress funds Bulgarian bike lanes first. This money is part of a commitment that includes $500 million to support the European Union, which aids countries affected by Russia's war in Ukraine and promotes energy security, food security, and private sector recovery in Eastern Europe and parts of Africa. This includes technical assistance, grants, and risk-sharing investments. All bullcrap. All bullcrap. All that is a different way to launder money since the Ukraine scam has kind of been redirected and shut down. All these politicians, including Republicans, were getting kickbacks, money coming back in different forms. They created all these weird little shell companies that they could make all this money from. The Trump administration shut all this down. In other words, instead of just sending them a blank check, now they're selling things to Ukraine, and the EU is having to buy those. They're pissed off about that, so politicians, because their own gravy trains have gone away as a result of that, are now finding more creative ways to send money to the EU and the Ukraine effort. Essentially, all this money goes right back into the whole Ukraine money laundering scam. But this is how they've gotten creative in order to do that. Let's call it something else, but it does the exact same thing. All this is money changing hands, and some of it coming back to the United States, the rest of it funding projects that benefit zero Americans. Zero. I get nothing out of this. Don't care about it. I don't want to fund it. $174,000 in death benefits for deceased lawmakers because dying in Congress apparently is the most lucrative career move you can make. This is a bull crap tradition dating back to the 1800s, where the family of heirs of a lawmaker who dies in office receive a tax-free lump sum equal to a full year's salary, always and usually in most cases $174,000. You're going to see some changes in that historically. But since 2000, Congress has approved about $7 million in such payments. What a load of crap. These people spend their entire lives bilking money out of the American people, becoming millionaires while in office, taking taxpayer-funded everything that they can, being exempt from things like Obamacare. They get better insurance even though they're government workers. Yeah, that's right. They don't get the same benefit packages as the IRS. You know, that's the other thing that kind of gets me. How come all these left-leaning wackos who work in the government aren't pissed off that they get garbage benefits and members of Congress get exempt from all the garbage benefits they have? Their insurance sucks. Members of Congress know that, so they vote themselves different benefits. Those people still vote for those same people who are excluding themselves from their crappy benefits. Yet, let's pull that lever for them. Now, let's get crazy. Here's some things that you probably didn't know about. Did you know that the Democrats were trying to die on a hill, in this case, for this government shutdown? Over $3 million for circumcisions in Zambia. That's right. These funds support voluntary medical male circumcision in countries like Mozambique and Zambia. It's considered a public health initiative to reduce HIV transmission. Here we go again, treating the symptoms and not the actual cause. You think maybe there would be a better way to educate people on and how to stop the transmission of HIV among men banging each other? I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. Maybe teach them to stop fudge packing. I mean, I know it's a crazy idea, but instead of chopping off skin to make HIV less transmissible while they're packing the fudge, maybe if you educated them, if that's possible, I'm not suggesting it's possible, but maybe if you attempted to educate them that instead of doing that, maybe you try a different route, and maybe that helps. But let's let them keep doing whatever they want to do. Why? Because it becomes a socially acceptable thing for them to push that type of lifestyle. They encourage that type of lifestyle. So they don't want to talk to people and try to tell them, hey, don't do that. They encourage that kind of behavior. So in order to stop or at least slow down the spread of HIV, they feel like, well, let's just chop this off and maybe that will help slow the spread. We know it ain't going to stop because we're encouraging this type of behavior, but maybe we can slow it down a little bit. And again, let's be honest, the money's not really going to that. It's the local people in Mozambique and Zambia, the local politicians. They're simply pocketing all the money. They probably lease some building out in the middle of nowhere to say that's what we're funding, that project over there, and nothing happens. I mean, let's be honest, there aren't any real circumcisions being done. This is all just some kind of a feel-good movement to put on a piece of paper, but nobody ever verifies that this is going on because we know that it's not. How about $833,000 for transgender support in Nepal, $4.2 million for LGBTQ programs in the Balkans, and $300,000 for a pride parade in Lesotho, a place that most Americans could not find on a map. Just as I stated on the circumcision part, the goal here is not to change behavior. The goal here is to push as much of the gay agenda and the wacko agenda as humanly possible and maybe convince people that this thing is so cool, this movement of ours, because look, we have posters and we have flags, we have parades, we have such cool stuff. You yourself should want to be gay just like we are. Yeah, instead of pushing these programs, maybe, I don't know, could you invest in maybe a crate of Bibles or something? I'm just thinking outside the box here of a different thing to promote in some of these countries instead of promiscuity and gayness. Just an idea. I got one for you. How about $3.6 million for pastry cooking classes and dance focus groups for male prostitutes in Haiti? Just what we need, right? Now, to be clear, this isn't really what it sounds like on the face of it. What they're trying to do is, again, because we have promiscuity and rampant AIDS over there in Haiti, everybody banging each other, all the guys are, this is the cool thing of the day now, let's hook up with Rodney and Gary over here. No, instead of trying to tell people, no, don't do that, they're encouraging that kind of behavior, so they're having now to deal with the results of that, which is rampant HIV and AIDS, right? So in order to try to fight that, they're trying to encourage male prostitutes in Haiti to take up pastry cooking instead, as a different form of income, as a different way to earn a living. Yeah, no male prostitution, make me some biscuits instead. That's what this program initially is about. But again, we know the old Clintons still got their thumbs in Haiti. How much of that money actually goes to teaching a male prostitute how to cook a pastry? And here is one of my favorite ones, $500,000 for electric buses in Rwanda. Now, of course, this doesn't support anything, really. It's essentially going to be $500,000 for PowerPoint presentations to be given. Because all it is funding pilot programs that discuss and show the benefits, quote unquote, of green buses, electric buses. So again, it's just a kickback effort. Somebody gets a little bit of money over there to say, hey, I'm giving you $500,000, kick me back about $100,000, you can keep the rest, don't tell anybody who you sent it to. That's all this stuff does. Now, to be clear, guys, all of these things, the things that I just mentioned, are all things that Democrats are willing to die on the hill for. These are their pet projects. If you think about it, the vast majority of America doesn't support any of this, like any of it. There's a very, very tiny percentage of Americans, I would say less than 10% probably. Now, some are just going to support it because it's a Democrat cause. But if you broke these things down like I did to individual causes, I think less than 10%, maybe 5% of the American public would agree wholeheartedly, yeah, I support those things. And in fact, those people who would say, yeah, I support all of those things, I would consider locking them up in a mental institution because something is clearly wrong with them, especially if you could show them where the money really goes, which is not to the actual cause. And most of us with a half-working brain, we know that. Now, while there is a clear difference between Republicans and Democrats in this case, I'm not one to sit here and act like there's no waste on the Republican side. Clearly, even though some of their efforts, and look, let's face it, any even legitimate effort out there from a Democrat or a Republican that, again, is legitimate, there's still kickbacks involved in that. So even if it was to build a bridge in North Carolina or Tennessee that was destroyed by Helene, even if it was to do that, somebody's getting paid besides just those bridge builders. We all know this. But the Republican things aren't as stupid. They're not as ideological. They're not social issues that they're trying to promote in other parts of the world or even locally here. Again, while there's waste involved, at least theirs are kind of boring, actually. You guys probably remember in the past there was the old Bridge to Nowhere in Alaska. This project proposed over $223 million for a bridge connecting a town of 50 people, and it basically became known as the Bridge to Nowhere. So again, yeah, that's a Republican plan there. Kind of boring, not ideological, just somebody trying to grease the palms of somebody out there. But some of the things where, again, I know there's waste, but at least makes sense that the Republicans are willing to die on as far as issues that they are standing firm on. This might seem like waste to some people, but F-35 Joint Strike Fighter earmarks. I mean, this included hundreds of millions of dollars earmarked for the F-35 fighter jets, often at the Pentagon's objection because there's a lot of infighting going on regarding the F-35. Watchdogs called it a perpetual subsidy for defense contractors that spread supply chains across politically important districts. So, of course, there was waste. And, of course, if it's going to involve the military-industrial complex, we know there's a lot of waste. We know there's a lot of kickbacks. We know that's why the Lindsey Grahams of the world want there to be perpetual wars all over the world all the time, because they're receiving tons of money from all these defense contractors out there. Another one similar in the same vein is the M1 Abrams tank upgrades. This was over $500 million per year earmarked for the M1 Abrams tank program, even when the Pentagon brass repeatedly said that the military already has more tanks than it can use. But again, even if we accidentally get a little bit of defense out of this, that's better than accidentally circumcising a few guys over in Rwanda or Mozambique or wherever it was. We've also seen a ton, $17.5 million wasted, or at least spent, I'm sure a good portion of that was wasted, on the Eisenhower Presidential Library improvements. We know that was a lot of money wasted, but again, it's not chopping off skin of wieners in some country that doesn't affect the U.S. We've seen Alaska king crab enhancement projects. Again, wasted money somewhere, but you got to think of it this way. A lot of that money ends up going to improvements on some of the vessels, some of the boats that are going out there fishing for these crabs, port improvements, dock improvements, some of the processing facilities. I've seen where a lot of this money goes. Again, even if we're wasting half of it, some of it goes to good that's helping people. I'm sorry because they're capitalists, but helping people try to feed their families and support some of these local communities. So again, my point is that there's waste on both sides, but you certainly have a very distinct difference between the sides. You have ideological things on one side that are twisting and changing the mindset of normal activity, and then you have waste on the other side, meaning the Republicans, that are more geared towards boring things like the military and actually helping capitalists. So knowing that we have rampant waste on both sides, I don't feel sorry for anybody in Congress. What does kind of anger me, and I know that there's bipartisan support for this, is the $157 million for security systems for members of Congress. Your safety is your problem, and so is their safety. It's your problem too. But speaking of security, you know what I didn't find in here? Yeah, we got Congress over here to the tune of $157 million wanting more security for themselves. I didn't see anything, and I searched pretty rigorously. There's no additional funding in here for hardening or securing our schools. I'm not talking about printing a t-shirt or a bumper sticker or a button that you can put on your kid's backpack that says guns are bad. I'm talking about the same type of security improvements that Congress needs $157 million for, not a penny, for those same types of security improvements for even one school in America. They want all this money to further protect them. They're already spending $700 or $800 million a year on their own security on a 2-mile area in Washington, D.C. Not a penny to harden a school in America, and now they need even more. But again, not a penny for your kids or for mine. One problem I have with all this shutdown nonsense, and this has nothing to do with parties here, this is in general. We know everybody eventually gets their paychecks. If there's a shutdown, if there's a true shutdown, and things stop getting done, wouldn't that mean less money goes out? If truly we should worry like they tell us we should worry about a government shutdown, doesn't that mean something's not getting done? So if you're telling me everybody still gets paid, then what's the harm? But if you're telling me that there's some harm somewhere, that must mean somebody or something is not getting paid for. If that is in fact the case, how come on April 15th, I don't get a reduction in the taxes that I have to pay? Because if we're spending less because of this evil, mean old shutdown that Trump and the Republicans are pushing, wouldn't that indicate that money isn't getting spent somewhere? Meaning that my money is not getting spent somewhere and your money isn't getting spent somewhere. Where's that line on my IRS form that shows this is my government shutdown rebate that I get? This comes back to me because for this many days, my money didn't pay for anything. There's no line on there that says that. You won't find it. Because even though we could have a shutdown for 6 months and your taxes would probably go up rather than down. So I want to know where the savings goes whenever things somehow or another aren't getting paid for. So the next time someone comes to you, and I don't care what party it is, complaining and crying about the government shutdown, it's going to shut down, we're not going to be able to do this or that or this or that. Ask them if it's to fund some kind of weird little art exhibit in Croatia where 4-year-olds are painting rainbows on the peckers of grown men or something stupid like that. Ask them that. Ask them what is standing in the way of the government shutdown. And then ask them to explain how I benefit from you shutting the government down over that stupid little silly project on the other side of the ocean that has zero to do with me. Ask them that. Nobody can answer that question. Guys, if you like the video, please share it. Please tell your friends about this channel. Please make sure you're subscribed. Hit that bell if you could so that when I upload another video every single day, you get a notification saying that I uploaded a video. If you don't get a notification, just know that I upload a video every single day. So make sure you're subscribed. Come back and check every day. If you don't get a notification, still know it's out there. Go look for it. Look for Legally Armed America on YouTube. And I appreciate you guys always chiming in the comment section down below. Thanks, guys. Don't forget, guys, if you're looking for a book to educate yourself and to educate the idiots out there who can't think for themselves regarding mass shootings, go to damnliars.net. Again, damnliars.net, and get my brand new book, Damn Liars.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.